my name's Morgan and welcome back to my channel. It's the end of July, so that means it's a July wrap-up. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about all of the books that I read in July. So let's get started. So the first book I read in July is Balzac and the Little Chinese Centrists by Dai Shui, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But this is a story of two young men who were taken from their families from the city to the rural area of China in the Phoenix of the Wind. It's like a mountain range in rural China. So basically this kind of is the author's recounting of his memories during China's cultural revolution. So basically it's him and his best friend from childhood. They are, in their late teens, and they are taken to basically farm out in the Phoenix mountain range. It's a short book. It's roughly 180 pages, and it's a beautiful book. I think there's a lot of lessons and things to learn from this book. However, it just left me wanting a little bit more towards the end, only because I just wanted like a short paragraph even of just the author's reflection of his time there. Not that he needed to give us it, not that I expect him to teach me about this time period. It's just to kind of, see his reflection on his experience besides just retelling it. But it's still a really great book. I highly recommend anyone who likes learning about different cultures, experiencing different perspectives. It's nice and short, so you can kind of buzz through it real quickly if you want to. Overall, I think I gave it a 3.75 stars, only because I just wanted a reflection at the end. Other than that, it probably would have been a 4 stars. But a beautiful cover. But what's even better is there's a beautiful end page or back cover. Look at how gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. A funny fact about this book is I was actually reading Under the Whispering Door in June, and one of the characters kind of lets the reader know that their mother actually lived through the Cultural Revolution in China. And after reading that passage that very same day, I was, scanning my local Savers bookshelves, and I found this book. So I thought, it was a calling. I just really needed to pick up this book and read it. And I actually do want to read more books about the China Cultural Revolution. I think that would be very interesting. So yeah, that was my first book that I read in July. Off to a good start. Next book that I read, or I guess it'd be manga, is A Sign of Affection by Sue Morishita, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I do apologize in advance if I pronounce anything incorrectly. I do try to listen and repeat what I hear to make sure I pronounce authors' names correctly, but it's always a hit and miss for me. But this is a manga about a young woman who is deaf, trying to deeply connect with the world around her and the people that she meets. So she takes a chance and tries to go to a typical university as a completely deaf person. You just get to see as a reader a world of trying to communicate with sign language. And it's beautiful because you get to kind of pick up sign language as you go, because she actually tries to teach, people around her what signs to use. Especially this guy right here, our main character bumps into her love interest on the train while going to university. And she just has a major crush on him. The story follows them connecting and trying to start a relationship and how that and what that looks like when you have like a language barrier. It's very short, it's very sweet. There's 5 volumes out in English. I love this series so much. It brings me back to my, early shoujo high school romance manga days, but this is just like a grown-up version. So if you liked like high school romance manga, this is kind of like the grown-up version because they are young adults going to college and figuring out life. So I think this is just kind of a more mature option for you. I'm obsessed. I own all 5 volumes. I'm desperately waiting for the 6th volume to be translated into English. So highly recommend. Put this on your list. Next book I read was The Maze Runner by James Dashner. Dashner? I missed out on this one. So like I said, I had a huge reading gap. So I'm kind of like picking up all of the YA dystopian books that I possibly can because I'm just so curious because this is era defining. So I thought I would just give it a try. I found it at Savers, so it wasn't like I was, spending too much and going on a limb trying to read these. So I mean it's pretty good. I've watched the movie before I read this. And I was actually quite surprised that the book to movie adaptation was pretty spot on. Like as I was reading, I was like, "Oh yeah, this happened in the movie." Like this, like nothing really surprised me. Nothing was like left out of the movie. So I thought that was really good. I had to get used to the way they talk. It's definitely a kind of like a new language, but it's not as epic as like a true high fantasy. It's just these weird lingo that teenage boys came up with. Also interesting to read from a teenage boy perspective that has no cultural context or memory of culture, just like brief memories of general things, right? So I thought that was very interesting. I still love the same characters that I loved in the movie. So I think it's Newt and Minho were my favorites of this whole entire book. I just kind of was like, okay, Thomas, can you please talk to Newt or Minho? I mean, you're our main character. We're supposed to like you, but I'd rather like get some more like interaction time with those characters. I thought the concept of kind of being in a mystery at the beginning. It's that's I think what makes this story stand out from the YA dystopia. You're really in a true mystery since the main character really truly doesn't know what's going on right at the beginning. So it's if you like mystery, but you also like dystopia and like some action bits in there, um, this is kind of the one for you. Quick read, really quick. I think this is the book with the shortest chapters I've ever read. These chapters are really short, so it's very quick, very nice, easy read. I think I gave it, did I give it 4 stars? I think I gave it 4 stars. It was pretty solid, pretty good. I want to read the at least 2 more in this series, but I've heard some shaky things about the Scorch Trials. But I do want to continue because I am also trying to read all of the YA dystopians and then kind of rank them as I go. Just so I can kind of, relive that nostalgia that I don't have, but just to kind of relate to people my age who have read these at the time that they came out. So I recommend this one. This one's fun. I started 2 books in July. Didn't finish them. That's very true fashion of me. I didn't finish them before the end of the month. One of the books I started was The Sword of Shannara by Terry Brooks. Love this series so far. I am on the first book in the series on page 269. I think it's just shy of halfway, so I'm like halfway through this one. I read the genesis of Shannara before this, and this actually, that prequel series was the one that started my reading binge during the start of the pandemic. So I love those books so much, so I needed to pick up, The Sword of Shannara, which is the main books that started this whole journey. This was released in the 1970s, I think. So, you know, it's not as modern as the other books that he has written in this series. I really like the writing in it. I think that's what really got me into the Genesis of Shannara, and also this one. I like his writing. It's very detailed, but it's not so detailed it bogs you down from the story, but it also kind of helps you create the world and the political structure that he wants to create. I took a look at the Goodreads rating, and I was kind of shocked it was not rated as high as I thought it should be, but I get it. You know, it's a true high fantasy. Some people are not into high fantasy. You know, it's a journey, right? So it's a slow start at the beginning, but I promise you, once you really get into it, it gets pretty eventful and things start happening. I know I'm only like halfway through it, but I still think my prediction is I'm gonna love this book so much and give it 5 stars. What I kind of compare it to so far is if you're intimidated by the Lord of the Rings books, but you like high fantasy, this is kind of the vibe of this one, right? Like it's like a high fantasy epic journey, you know, the chosen one character, but the language is just a little bit easier to get through. It's detailed, but not Lord of the Rings detailed. So I think it's kind of a happy medium and something that allows, you know, accessibility to a high fantasy story. But what I also like about it is it has a little twist to kind of the high fantasy genre. Um, I guess I'll put a spoiler just in case if no one wants to know like the you know how this world came to be. So just a little spoiler. I'll put a little thing up here somewhere, and then once the spoiler thing's gone, you can check back in. But the twist in this book is that all of the races were actually created after human society. So all these creatures like gnomes, trolls, and other creatures were created from the death and also re-established human society. So there's this thing that happened before that kind of killed off a lot of people, and then from that you get all these different races. So I thought that was a modern twist. So basically this is post us. So this is in the future. Instead of this being a high fantasy that takes place in olden times, this is technically our like far future. So I thought that was a really fun twist, and you can kind of see that because he brings up these modern things in there that kind of bring a fresh new life to high fantasy, but not yet making it like urban fantasy. So I guess that's why it's modern fantasy. I'm not sure. Very much love this book. I'll give final thoughts hopefully in my August wrap up. But yeah, if you're looking for a high fantasy, I recommend this one so far. I'm predicting 5 stars. Highly recommend. The last book I think I need to talk about, oh, The Shining. So I have a book club with my friends that I know in real life. And well, I didn't pick it. My friend picked it. We are reading through The Shining by Stephen King. As we all know, horror is not my choice of genre, but I'm really trying to be open to it. So I've never read The Shining before. This is my first time reading it. I think I've seen the movie, but I don't know. It could just be pop culture, and I just seen scenes from The Shining, so I kind of know what it's about. It's an old tale. It's also written in the 70s. I think I'm on like part 2 of the audiobook. So I've reached part 2. They're at the hotel, they're moving in, right? And like the boy has a conversation with the cook, and that's kind of where I think I left off. So far, I mean, I don't love it and I don't hate it. So I'm kind of neutral right now. I would say you can definitely tell it's written in the 70s, which in contrast to like Sword of Shannara, like this you can't really tell it's written in the 70s, whereas like some of the things Stephen King writes about in the 70s kind of mind frame is very evident in that book, so it kind of put me off a little bit. um but yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I'm keeping an open mind. I'm hoping I like it. I always go into a book hoping I like it, even if it's outside of my preferred genre. So hopefully in my, August wrap up, I will finish The Sword of Shannara as well as The Shining. So fingers crossed. Hello, this is Editing Morgan. I completely forgot to include that I read Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse this month in July. So I'm just gonna add that in here. We'll do a quick little interjection. So I did finish the audiobook. So I've been reading the audiobooks for Percy Jackson, and so far love them. I'm so sad I didn't start those when I was in grade school or middle school or whatever age group it was. They're great. They're hilarious. I think I gave the Titan's Curse like a 4 out of 5 stars. I think they're pretty hilarious. I think they're very entertaining. And I also love a Greek retelling. I mean, that's just who I am. So I love Greek retellings. So highly recommend Percy Jackson. Very popular series, but also they're coming out with a TV series. So hopefully it's better than the movie that I watched. Oh dear gosh. I only watched the first movie. I didn't even realize they came out with a second movie. But yeah, so read those, really liked it. I think I liked the second one, The Sea of Monsters, a little bit more than The Titan's Curse, which I've kind of heard that The Titan's Curse is a lot of people's favorite. So, oh well. Highly recommend. I'm gonna continue reading. Hopefully, I finished Percy Jackson before the series comes out. Yeah, so that's the end of Editing Morin's little blurb about the books that she forgot she read in July. All right, continue on. That was all of the books that I read in the month of July. Um, yeah, so let me know what books you read in July. Let me know if you found your favorites. Let me know if you read some books that you just absolutely did not like. Because I always like listening to people talk about books they don't like too. Just because either I want to read them or for the sake of just being like, it must be so bad, maybe it's slightly entertaining because it's so bad. Or I want to read people's favorite books too, because it might be my new favorite. So yeah, go ahead, leave a comment down below. Tell me about the books you read in July. I really want to know. Good luck on your August reads. All right, so I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Bye. Let me do that again. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.